With the news of TNT Sports coming back to NASCAR in 2025 as a broadcasting partner, it made me think about the various paint schemes that were driven from 1996 to 2000, which I'm gonna rank all 18 Turner Broadcasting paint schemes from that little time period. Now, I'm specifically focusing on the NASCAR Cup Series, so nothing from the Busch Series will be covered on the list. So no NWO paint scheme, no WCW paint scheme from like 1995, and no Blaze Alexander WCW paint schemes from 2000. Those cars will not be on this list. Outside of those, let's get the show on the road and rank those 18 cars. Ranking in 18th and last is the number 75 World Championship Wrestling Ford Taurus that Wally Dallenbach drove in the year 2000. Okay, so I'm pretty much re-recording this entire portion because it went way too long, but the TLDR is that the paint scheme is very underwhelming in terms of it being a World Championship Wrestling paint scheme. Overall, the car design sucks, World Championship Wrestling sucked balls at the time, and there was a major missed opportunity of not running a Nitro Grill paint scheme when the paint scheme debuted at Las Vegas, which is, the home of the Nitro Grill itself. Come on guys, perfect opportunity, what the fuck are we doing here? Oh wait, the company is dead, I can't even ask that question. Up next in number 17 is another paint scheme from 2000, that being the Powerpuff Girls number 75 Ford Taurus that Warren Dallenbach drove in the Daytona 500. Whilst the WCW paint scheme had an issue of being a boring and bland car, this has the issue of not really feeling to the idea of a Powerpuff Girls in design or at least on paper. The 2000s were definitely an era where a lot of child stuff got turned into edgy and stuff, and this feels like an edgy, soft, edgy type version of a Powerpuff Girls paint scheme, which is various angry expressions and movements that already just beat someone up. As well, the integration for redstone batteries on the hood is atrocious. The integration just doesn't work with the illustration of Buttercup, and in later diecast releases, the integration is removed and the illustration looks better, the hood looks better without the integration of redstone batteries, which is docketed some serious points in terms of this ranking. But I'll be nice for a moment and give it some credit as it uses a original number styling to fit in with the Powerpuff Girls illustrations rather than using the Galaxy Motorsports number that was seen in most of its entries, but it's not enough to get out the bottom 2 in this list. Ranking 16th and the first from 1997 is the number 29 Cartoon Network Chevrolet that Jeff Green drove that year. My issue with this paint scheme is that it doesn't really stand out, it's bland in a sense. The white base doesn't really make it pop compared to something like the Scooby-Doo car from 1997. Its purple base makes it stand out instantly. And with this paint scheme having a lot of different Cartoon Network characters on there, it doesn't really have the number to stand out outside the gradient. Something like once again, the Scooby-Doo car, it stands out because the number itself is stylized to the Scooby-Doo logo. But for this, it's just too bland for me, even though as always, illustrations look great and the racing element for Tom and Jerry is appreciated. It doesn't stand out enough to make it a top 15 paint scheme, and that's why it's this low on the list. Ranking number 15th in the first from 1999 is the number 9 Dinner in the Movie Ford Taurus that Jerry Neri drove, and holy shit, the color choices for this scheme is absolutely abysmal. You think with that kind of statement, this paint scheme would have started off the list in 18th, but surprisingly, its garishness is what makes it stand out the most. Instead of having some edgy illustrations of the Powerpuff Girls or a very underwhelming paint scheme for a wrestling company, this fucking disaster class of a car just stands out from how bad it is. The colors clashing each other, the weird choices are just weird and just fucking odd that it stands out. It stands out for the worst reasons, and that's why it's 15th place. Up next at number 14 is the sequel to the 1999 Dinner in the Movie Ford, this one being the 2000 iteration. Instead of going for a purple, teal, and black look, it decided to go for a black, red, and green, simpler type of design, going away with theme rails and going for a more basic type of look. I know I mentioned the usage of colors during the segment for the Din in the Movie car, but I do want to make it important that color combination can work, and at that time it did not work for the 1999 version, but for the 2000 version, the simpler design alongside the simpler colors made this car work better than the 99 version. It still feels basic and generic compared to the 99 version, which stood out for the wrong reasons, but it just works better, it's easier to the eyes, and that's why it's here in number 14. Speaking of colors, in number 13 we have the first car of 1998, that being the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Ford Taurus that Lakespeed drove that year, and its absolutely garish yellow base scheme is why it's this low on the list. In terms of determining how much I like the scheme, the illustration is 100% saving for the scheme because the base color absolutely is a strain to the eyes. It kind of continues that critique I saw a couple of times online about these series of schemes being like eye candy for kids, and this bright color of a like near Monash yellow actually hurts the scheme as a whole. Since Zombie Island was already kind of a dark movie, it could have benefited from a different kind of base color aside from the yellow that they use. The illustrations look great. I just don't know why they used the classic Hanna-Barbera character designs because the movie introduced brand new character designs. But I digress. It's in number 13 for a good reason, and it is a decent car, decent illustrations. Just the base color absolutely kills some points for any viability the scheme had in the rankings. Ranked in number 12 is the granddaddy of the Cartoon Network paint schemes, the number 29 Flintstones Chevrolet driven by Steve Grissom in 1996. With being the first of its kind, it doesn't really throw a bunch of marketing characters onto the car and call it a day. It focuses on one brand, that being the aforementioned Flintstones, and does it pretty well, with stylization of Fred Flintstone being ready to race and all that jazz, with a good looking scheme, stylized numbers, and overall just a good start to a series of paint schemes that will continue into the new millennium. Ranking number 11 and coming 2 years after the Flintstones debut is the Wacky Races Ford Taurus that Lakespeed drove during the 50th anniversary of NASCAR's existence, that being 1998. As Turner Broadcasting, responsible for Mellon Racing for the first time in 1998, decided to bring in Huckleberry Hound, Tomcat, and several other classic Hanna-Barbera characters to star-stud the car, and it is stylized. Plenty of race suits, plenty of just shenanigans involving race equipment. It's obviously a very just stylized, good-looking car, and it is right here near the top 10 because it's good, it's solid, and it just needs a little bit more of that, those spice, to get in the top 10. Finally, we have reached the top 10 paint schemes of this list. These are what I consider to be the best out of the bunch, but of course, there can only be one. And starting off in the 10th place position is the Happy Birthday NASCAR Ford Taurus from 1998. With a scheme dedicated to celebrate the birthday of the sport that they're currently sponsoring, it is quite the birthday bash with plenty of characters from Hanna-Barbera's catalog, goofing around, doing the usual things, and making a mess of the stock car in the process. It is a very bright and out there design, which does work with the theme of it being a happy birthday paint scheme. You got even cake elements on the front of the car, alongside confetti, birthday candles, the whole bunch, the whole 9 yards. And it's cracking the top 10 because it's a very visually speaking type paint scheme with the amount of anarchy that's happening on the car. Plus, some original renders originally had the car number being splattered, but it will be removed once the car actually got on track. Overall, a good paint scheme, and it cracks in the top 10 for a good reason. Ranking in number 9 from 1999, it is the Jetsons Ford Taurus that Jerry Nady drove in the Wine Valleys of Infineon Raceway. What I like about this paint scheme is that it incorporates both sponsors really well. These Jetsons cars were often sponsored by Sprint Radio Shack, and obviously with it being a phone company, it integrates both companies really well with the illustrations. Another element I like about this paint scheme is the use of blue on as the swirls, because those elements really make the car feel complete, and if they were missing from the design, then it would have been a very overtaken paint scheme with the yellow base. Ranking in 8th is another paint scheme from 1999, that being the good version of a wrestling paint scheme in this list is the World Championship Wrestling Ford Taurus that Jerry Nadeau drove later in the season. Whilst Talladega was the last stand for the classic WCW logo, the summer of 1999 saw a very bad TV product for the company, but in terms of paint schemes, they did a very good job. Red, silver, and black made the car pop when it comes to the base color having a metallic finish. It looks very cool, and whilst I do have a little critique of the Serpentine font for the number, it's still a very good paint scheme in terms of these 1999-2000 rides, and overall, as an overall package, it is way better than what Galaxy Motorsports gave us in 2000, for instance. Ranked in number 7th, it is the final paint scheme to adore the classic WCW logo, that being the WCW NW04 Taurus that Jerry Nadeau drove at the Talladega Fall Race. If the previous WCW paint scheme was meant to be the start of a new era for the company, then this is the end of an era, featuring the old WCW logo alongside the NWO logo that they used for much of 1998 and the early part of 1999. This one clashes both factions into one chaotic and sharp paint scheme. Running at Talladega in April, it was one of many aspects of WCW that kind of stayed along when the new logo came in, but this is one way of ending the legacy of WCW, or more rather, the classic WCW from NASCAR as we moved on to the Bullshit logo. Up next is a dedicated paint scheme to one of World Championship Wrestling's most iconic wrestlers, of course, that being the man Goldberg. Ranking in number 6 is the man himself, Bill Goldberg, embroiled on the Melanie Racing number 9 Ford, featuring his iconic tattoo shoulder, the gold across the car, and the pops of red on the number. It's clear to see why I put this paint scheme up high. It's simple, it executes the design perfectly, and it's almost cracking that top 5 because the only negative I have for this paint scheme is the weird hood logo that they decided to use with that odd Goldberg pose that they have. But outside of that, bam, not factor. This paint scheme is great. It works on the simplicity, and it is a fantastic send-off for Jerry Nadeau as he is getting closer to replacing Ernie Irvin in that at number 36. Finally getting to the top 5, we have a couple of paint schemes ranging from 1996 to even the year 2000. Number 5, it is the number 75 Red Cell Batteries Ford Taurus that Wally Dallenbach drove in the Southern 500, featuring our favorite duo of scaredy cats, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. So I may have a bit of an issue. It turns out I don't have any footage in regards to this paint scheme from NR2003 pre-recorded, and I don't want to bother with reinstalling a bunch of cars from that time period to make them more fit with the paint scheme. So instead, here's footage from my VOD of Papa's Pizzeria Deluxe with a fucking PNG of the car overlaid. I hope you like it. Despite me being very critical of the cars that came out from the year 2000, this is a pretty good one. Integrating the red cell batteries alongside Shaggy and Scooby was perfect due to the duo's very scary nature, and the number getting sapped as well is a nice touch. There are some things that I am a bit critical of, such as the car number being red, and of course the red cell batteries integration on the hood, which I previously criticized with the Powerpuff Girls car, but overall they do fit with the theme of the paint scheme and electricity, so it kind of gets of a pass, and that's why they're here in the top 5. Ranked in number 4, it is the best paint scheme 1998, that being the Powerpuff Girls Ford Taurus that Lightspeed drove during the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. When I criticized the paint scheme from 2000, I lamented it more as being too edgy for the brand. But with this variation from 1998, they actually nailed it pretty well. Bright colors, cheery looks, and a absolutely fantastic looking set of illustrations for the characters. This is the Powerpuff Girls paint scheme, but there are a couple of paint schemes that do rank above it, and we're gonna get to one of them right now as we get to the top 3. Entering the podium positions, we have in number 3 the Atlanta Braves paint scheme from 1999, fielded by Melon Racing. The reason why this paint scheme is so up high is because it uses the colors of the Atlanta Braves really well, alongside the baseball motif that you see on the front of the car and the implementations of the CBS Superstation logo, which tells you exactly which channel that you want to turn on if you want to see some Atlanta Braves baseball action. Ranked in number 2 is another paint scheme from 1999, that being the season opener Dexter's Laboratory Ford Taurus the J82 drove in the early parts of the 1999 season. If you ever want to see a paint scheme that embraces its sponsorship to an absolutely chaotic extent, this is the paint scheme that does it the second best. With the illustration showing the absolute madness that Dee Dee, Mandark, and Dexter are dealing around the car, it is a great looking paint scheme alongside the bright baby blue paint scheme base that uses to contrast with the various illustrations. Now this is one of two variation entries, which this paint scheme had a red version driven in the summer 1999 as to honor the passing of the team owner Harry Melling. Ranking in number 1 is one of the original Cartoon Network paint schemes coming from the year 1997. It is the Deep Purple Scooby-Doo Monte Carlo driven by Robert Presley during the early days of Diamond Ridge. Congrats Scooby, you have earned number 1. I have a couple of things to say about this paint scheme because I do love it to my heart. I even commissioned DT to recreate it for the Scrub Series finale, which was a really cool sight. But getting back on track, the reason why I love this paint scheme is because it is just perfect. The number being stylized to the Scooby-Doo logo is fantastic. It's a great design look as well. The deep purple base just works well to make everything else stand out. And one more thing, the illustrations are bang on. Using the Mystery Gang and the various ghoulish villains they have dealt with over the series in the many years that that show has existed, it was fantastic. Everything about this package is just great, and that's why number 1. Plus, it actually has some fucking footage that I can use for this video, as you're seeing right now. They even made a commercial featuring Presley and various Cartoon Network characters messing around with the car. Overall, a fantastic car, and that's why it's in number 1. And finally, this video is done. After very just hectic months when it comes to like stuff getting ahead of the production of this video, I can say it's done. I'd like to say my personal thank yous to Bully Alley Carpet and Jetpack Gamer 456 for personally checking over what I've worked on so far in the video, giving me recommendations here and there to make sure this product is a lot more tighter. And speaking about the Legoshi Lover, I actually collaborated with him in his Marvel series where him and another friend of mine decided to watch all the theoretical Marvel movies. Yeah, it's a stupid as idea as it is. I'm actually in part 2 bitching about Triple H. So, speaking as a friend of him, go check it out. You might enjoy the content. You might enjoy a new YouTuber, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I know it's been a hot minute since I've put down something edited, but this is Flynn, and I'll see you on the flip side.